think about your life up until now and on into the future, do you believe that you have more control than your external factors? Or do you believe that external factors have more impact on the outcomes of your life than you have? Essentially, I'm asking you, what is your locus of control? If your locus of control is more internal, then you believe that you are responsible and you have power to get your life going in the direction that you want it to go in. If you have more of an external locus of control, you believe that something outside of yourself controls the destination whereby you will end up. If you're someone who's somewhere in the middle, you're probably going to be much better off than someone who is far left with external or far right with internal. Hi, I'm Dr. Danetta. I am a counselor and personal development coach, and I am on TikTok having an absolute blast, learning, growing, and walking alongside all of you as you do the same. My hope is to empower, encourage, provoke thought, and give you some inspiration to keep going in the direction you know you should be going in. So, what prompted the conversation on locus of control is, well, the most recent prompt, because this is one of the most interesting topics to examine. It's one I've been interested in for a long time, because I want to understand the human mind and I want to know how to make the most out of my life and how to support other people in doing the same thing. And the most recent prompt to talk about locus of control is actually two books that I read. I recently read a book with my book club, the Creative Scholar Book Club, called The Release of the Spirit by an author named Watchman Nee, and it is a faith-based book. It is a Christian book. But we finished that book up about 2 weeks ago, and we're getting ready to start another book. But in between, I've been reading a couple of other books. And one of the ones I am about a third of the way through is called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And what's really interesting to me is with Watchman Nee, the book talks a lot about the innermost man, the inner man, the outer man, and the outermost man. And in Watchman Nee's book, the inner man is the spirit of a person. And when a person receives Christ and a person makes a commitment to being one of his disciples, that the Spirit of God indwells that person. And because the Spirit of God dwells in the spirit of the man, they basically become one. And in Watchman Nee's description of what the life of a person who has the Spirit of God is like, is basically that the outer man, which in Nee's theory or Nee's theology, the outer man is the soul, the mind, the will, and the emotions. And then the outermost man is our flesh, our human body. And so with reading Watchman Nee's book, he talks about how God allows the circumstances of our lives to break the soul so that the spirit can be released, so that we can walk in the spirit, so that we can walk in power, so that we can walk in unity with the Spirit of God and be empowered to do whatever it is that God has put us on this earth to do for such a time as this. And so throughout the book is basically talking about the process of brokenness, the process of learning to surrender, learning to trust God and walk therein. Now, in Napoleon Hill's book, he is basically describing the Spirit of God directing a person, from the inside out. And he's not using the same language as Watchman Nee at all. But I think it's very, very interesting coming just from reading Nee's book to reading Hill's book, because when you read the descriptions, they're both talking about God leading and directing, but just in two different ways, but ultimately maybe yielding the same result. The only difference is with Watchman Nee, it is very much a thing of being led by the Spirit of God through our own spirit. With Hill, it's more of like kind of the whole Rumi, God in me, as me. He didn't say that, but when I read Outwitting the Devil, it sounds a lot like that. A lot like the God in me, as me. But even when I think about how Watchman Nee describes it, he basically is saying that the Spirit of God is so joined to the spirit of a man when a person is indwelled by the Spirit of God that it literally is God in you as you, moving your spirit around, moving you to yield your soul, your mind, your will, and emotions to do the bidding of the Spirit of God. And then with Napoleon Hill, it's literally a thing of listening on the inside for the divine spirit to lead you, and then operating in faith and not fear. And it's been so cool to read both books because it makes me think of Locus of Control. How do the two come together? This is how it comes together in my mind. So with Locus of Control, that is such a topic for me because being a Christian, but also it being revealed to me in recent times how much I have operated in fear, even using the Word of God to remain encaged in certain ways and not even realizing that that's indeed what was happening. And so when I think about Locus of Control, when I think of the internal locus of control, it being that we believe that what is in us and who we become and how we operate is the main influence of our lives. And then an external locus of control, based on that particular psychological concept, it would be that God or something outside of ourselves is in control. But when you think of it in the way that Nee described it, or even the way that Hill described it, it's really right there in the middle, because the Spirit of God can rule, can reign, has total control, but when it comes to the decisions that we make, we have free will. So even when it comes to, the whole thing of the outer man being broken so that the inner man can reign, there is still that will, our free will, being broken to the place where we will surrender our will to God and say, Lord, what you say do, I am coming to you freely saying that I will do what you say do, which means that I'm going to have to step out of fear and into faith in a lot of ways. And, the process of life showing us those things. So I think about a person who has more of an external locus of control, who feels like, oh, well, everything that's happening to me is God's will and there's nothing I can do about it. I can't make people act a certain way. I can't make my circumstances change. And so I'm just here at the will of whatever happens to me based on whatever God allows. Whereas a person who has an internal locus of control may allow pride to make them feel like they don't need God, or I control everything. I'm the master of my fate. I'm the the captain of my soul. It's all in me. But the reality is, it's really both. In order to be spiritually sound and emotionally and mentally whole, we have to find ourselves somewhere in the middle. So I ask you again, what is your locus of control? What do you believe you can do about your life? And how much do you know